Welcome to Modern Art Blitz. I'm your host, Matt Gleason. My co-host, Lisa Derrick, could not be with us today. Don't worry, she's not ill. She was actually curating an art show, which she does professionally, and sometimes our professional activities get in the way of the great Modern Art Blitz live Sunday streaming. We do this every Sunday live at 5 on dronebox.com. You can stream us straight into your house via your computer and your internet connection. We also archive the show in perpetuity, or until nuclear war, on youtube.com, a very popular website. Have your kids tell you about it if you don't know what I'm talking about. Today's show, we've got a great show today. We've got two great guests that are formidable presences in the art world. Presences. In the sketcher's seat today, we have our intern, Eliza. She will be sketching our guests. Eliza, are you ready? Whoa. The confidence is just oozing over. Well, the confidence is going to be oozing from this side. Later in the show, we're going to have the great Robbie Conal as our guest. But our first guest is a superior painter, a creative force to be reckoned with. She's exhibited locally. She's an international sensation. Lili Bernard. Welcome.
Hey, Matt. So good to see you. Eliza.
All right. You're one of my favorite painters.
Oh.
And you work in a grand scale. And you just, when somebody sees one of your paintings, it's almost a consumptive activity. We're consumed. And the images, at times, they seem very complex. And yet, you know, there's something going on there. It's usually pretty intense. Help! So, what exactly inspires you most relative to making these large-scale paintings?
What inspires me most? I have to say my children.
Your children?
By far
Are they that much of a terror? I mean, I know your kids are, but wow.
Well, you know,
wait, I understand. When you say they inspire you, you want to get away from the kids, so you make the big scale. If you're making small paintings, then you'd have to go home. But to get away from them, you can make, okay.
Yeah, but I actually involve them in the process. So,
you do?
Yeah, I do. Some of them are my models, so I actually have them pose for some of the images.
The more demonic, the more childlike, right?
They pose. I pose myself too, and then I'll take a selfie and use that selfie from which to sketch and then paint. But
Wow. And you're primarily an oil painter, correct?
yes, oil painting. That's all I paint with is oil.
All you paint with is oil painting.
Oil on canvas.
Take those acrylics back to the art supply store. We don't need you anymore. So let's look at this painting, and if I disappear, we can see the painting.
Okay.
Poof. Oh, hey, it worked. Wow, I feel like Dr. Bombay. Okay, so what are we looking at here?
You are looking at a 2016 work in progress. I'm almost done with it.
Almost done.
Yeah, maybe you have 8 to 16 more hours. And it is one of what I call my antebellum appropriation paintings. Antebellum meaning before the war that freed the slaves. In this case, it would be Cuba, because I was born in Cuba. And this painting is inspired by Artemisia Gentileschi's Judith slaying Holofernes. How do you pronounce that? Holofernes?
You know, I know how to write the stuff. I wouldn't know how to answer it on Jeopardy.
But you're an art historian, so your guess is
I'm an
better
art historian. No. I don't believe in Santa Claus. I don't believe in art history.
Your guess is better than mine. But it's inspired from her painting, but I took it a step farther, and I actually, of course, I flipped the story. I flipped the story to tell a slave narrative, and then I expanded upon it. So there are subjects and characters that don't appear anywhere in her painting. But it is the moment that I imagine that Carlota, who is a real live slave rebellion leader in Cuba, she was a Yoruba woman, I imagine that the moment that she began the slave rebellion. So she had a very famous slave rebellion in the 1800s, and so I imagine that is what happened.
Let me ask you, and these are fascinating paintings, and do they make people uncomfortable?
They do. They make
Is that on purpose?
I don't know. I just feel, I feel like
I like that they made. I like it's like whoa.
I mean, if you look at the detail, I think we're covering the detail. But if you look at the detail, there's like a threatened castration, and yes, there she is. And Carlota, who really is me in the painting, is threatening to castrate the slaver / rapist long enough. She's threatening to castrate him long enough so that Carlota, her partner, can decapitate him.
Oh, so you threatened the little head.
Yes.
To get after the yikes. But back now, is the average viewer offended? Are people upset? I mean, what's the average? There's many reactions to your work.
There are a lot of reactions, but I would say that overall people are very enamored by the paintings. They really are enthralled by them. It's a lot. I get a lot of positive comments, and there are very few people who are offended, but most people are just really excited.
Do you think a lot of people are offended or upset or a little? It makes them
shocked.
uneasy, but they try to pass it off like, oh, well.
Yeah, I mean, this is what these paintings talk about. It talks about the crime that became institutionalized in 1492, right? We're talking about rape. So these paintings are all talking about rape, and not just exploitation against women of color, but just women in general. So that topic in itself makes people uncomfortable that we're talking about rape
and slavery.
And slavery, yeah.
And so I mean, you're piling on just the good messages here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost a Hallmark card. Now, can you tell us about the one we're looking at? This is giant.
Yeah, that was.
How big is this
It's
painting?
8 feet across.
It's 8 feet across.
6 feet high.
Wow.
Or 5 feet high, but definitely 8 feet across.
And now this is based on a Manet painting.
Absolutely,
correct?
it's based on Manet's Olympia, but I call it Caroline, and it's inspired by the real life story of my great-grandparents. My great-grandfather, William Bernard, was a very rich white Jamaican slave, he wasn't a slaver, he was a stagecoach designer, and my great-grandmother Caroline was his maidservant. And so
what's a maidservant? Is that a slave?
A maidservant, no, but this was actually after slavery. I made it occur during slavery because my parents are very uncomfortable with me telling my family history. They consider to be private, but I consider it to be an important story because when you're a light-skinned black person, rape is part of how we got here. And so I feel like it's everybody's story. So I did make it occur in the slave era, even though my great-grandmother was born slightly after slavery. But she was a very poor maid. They called it a maidservant. She was indigent, and he was very rich, and he had a wife and children. And
it gets better, folks.
Yeah, he had a wife and children, and
it wasn't a soap opera enough.
So he abused his power. We assumed that it was via rape, and through this abuse of power, he impregnated my great-grandmother Caroline, and she bore 3 children, including my grandmother. So
wow,
it's always been understood in our family that it was rape by rape.
Wow. Okay, so in a way, you're portraying someone you're related to who's a bad guy.
Yeah, but if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here.
So there's this weird kind of legacy.
Yeah.
So how long have you been making this series? When did you start this series?
You started it for me.
I did not start this
yes,
series.
Yes, you
I
did.
did not start this series.
2011 with
2011? I did not.
Yes, you did.
Okay, we'll get to that. Okay. How long have you been painting?
I've been painting since I was a little girl, since I was a toddler. I knew. Oh, really? Yeah, since I was a toddler that I would be an artist.
Now, when did you feel you had really become an oil painter though?
An oil painter? Not until maybe 2007.
Oh yeah.
I also was an actor. I would always combine my acting with my painting, with my visual arts. But in 2007 is when I began really painting again, more seriously, because it's hard to go to auditions with 6 kids.
Wow. Okay. I'm back to the kids now. You have 6 kids.
Yes, I gave birth to 6 kids in 10 years' time. So
6 kids in 10 years.
And they know you. Yes,
I know your kids.
Yes, they love you.
They're a handful.
They're good kids.
They're easily bribable with soda pop, free soda pop, which we have at the gallery. So that helps out when they come by. Mm-hmm. So 6 kids, and now, is there one that is you have a favorite?
No.
No?
How many siblings do you have?
Oh, my mom's my mom had 7 kids and she hates kids.
No favorites.
There's only 2 of you I would like to hang out with.
No favorites.
I can say that because I'm one of the 2. So
no, there are no favorites.
No?
But I do have a favorite daughter.
You only have one daughter though. Oh wow, that's so fair. So who are we looking at here?
Okay, so this one, I call this Carlota leading the people. And this is after Eugene Delacroix's Liberty leading the people. And whereas with Eugene Delacroix's painting, he had a fictitious woman rebellion leader, this is a reenactment of a real life rebellion leader. Again, the Yoruba enslaved woman in Cuba named Carlota.
Wow.
Wow.
And how big is this painting?
That one is 6 feet across.
6 feet across. Okay, so we've got, you're working on this massive scale. Who has a house big enough to put one of these paintings in?
We have a house big enough. We're blessed, thank God. We have
so you've shown locally with...
oh, gosh, Walter Maciel. I showed these galleries at your gallery, Coaga Curatorial,
okay.
Of course. I have a work right now in Avenue 50 Studios.
Avenue 50?
Charlie James Gallery in Chinatown.
You've shown in the group show Charlie James. I saw you in a group show at the Watts Towers,
The Watts Towers Art Center.
What show was that?
That was Baila con Duende, which I curated.
Baila
con Duende,
which means dance with...
Spirit.
Spirit.
Yeah.
Duende is spirit.
Yeah.
And what is spirit? How does one define spirit in it? I mean, let's face it, we live in an atheist art world.
Right.
How does one define spirit in an atheist art world?
That's for me, spirit is everything. Who was the famous artist who said that an artist has a spirit in their hand? Who was it who says that?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Somebody said that, but to me, spirit is everything. These paintings are highly codified with Afro-Caribbean religiosity. There's Afro-Cuban iconography all up in it. So
what is some of the iconography?
Wow. So the little boy who in Delacroix's painting next to his Liberty, it was like a small little boy. Was he a drummer boy?
Yes, the drummer, yes.
But that clearly to me became Elegua. So Elegua is the Orisha of...
An Orisha is a Cuban...
A Cuban is an African deity.
An African deity.
From Yoruba land, yeah.
Okay.
So the Yoruba deity. And so that little boy represents Elegua, and Elegua is syncretized in Santeria with the Christ child.
Oh,
he is the Orisha of the crossroads. His colors are black and red. Today I wore red and white for you. Because you are the Chango of the art world.
I am the Chango of the art world.
Yes.
And don't you forget it. What is a Chango?
A Chango is not a monkey.
It's not a monkey.
It's not a monkey. He's an Orisha. He's a warrior Orisha. And he is the Orisha who wields lightning and thunder and a double-edged sword to cut through truth. So he believes in justice. He represents virility, which is...
Oh, hey, that, I'm all up. Oh, boy.
That's an SAT word for sexy.
Okay.
But he's powerful, and he's truthful, and he's a warrior, and his colors are red and white. And so he's represented in that painting in the gladiola flowers that are red and white, because gladiola, of course, in Latin means sword.
Oh, I did not know that. Wow, gladiolas are swords.
Yes.
Cool.
You said we have Babalu Aye. Babalu Aye is on all fours, and he is syncretized in Santeria with Saint Lazarus.
Okay, who rose from the dead?
Not that Lazarus.
Not that Lazarus.
There's another Lazarus in the Bible.
We have the show on Sunday specifically so that we can catch up with our Bible studies.
Yes.
So
there's another Lazarus in the Bible who was a beggar, and the dogs were constantly licking his wounds. And then when in the afterlife, he was in the bosom of Abraham, and the rich king or whatever in the robe was complaining, why is the mendicant in the bosom of Abraham? And that's in the Bible. You were going to be a priest, right? You know that story.
Okay, now, back to 2011. What painting is this? Is the first in the series, correct?
It is, yes it is. And this is not the birth of Venus. This is inspired by Botticelli's The Birth of Venus, but it is the sale of Venus on the auction block.
Sale of Venus on the auction block.
And there is Chango. He is in the red
Wearing
and white.
the red and white crown.
And he's holding Santa Barbara with whom he's syncretized. And he's coming to save poor Venus on the auction block.
And Venus is on the auction block.
Yeah,
she's getting checked out like merchandise there.
She is like merchandise. She's about to give birth. She's in labor. And to her left is Oshun.
Okay.
And that's another Orisha who is syncretized with the Virgin Mary, Blessed Mother.
Okay.
La Virgen de la Caridad del Cobre, which is Cuba's patron saint.
Okay, so you speak Spanish pretty well there.
I do.
Okay, and you speak English just fine.
It was my first language, Spanish.
Okay,
yeah.
Spanish was your first language?
Yeah, I'm an immigrant.
So you were born in Cuba?
I was born in Cuba.
What city in Cuba?
Santiago de Cuba.
Santiago de Cuba.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're an Easterner.
Yeah, hop and a skip from Jamaica.
Okay, so then you got over here. Did you?
It was a long story, but yeah, we escaped.
You got over here.
We got over here. We were exiles.
And then, how old were you when you came to the U.S.?
3.
You were 3.
I was 3 years old.
Okay, and so you're in the U.S. How'd you get to L.A.?
Through acting,
Okay.
I was acting, and
the biz.
the biz. But I was always painting. I was an actor. I was, you probably saw me on TV on some things, but I was always a painter first. And so I even had a studio in New York back then, in my studio.
Okay.
But I just never exhibited. I didn't start exhibiting until 2008, pretty late.
Okay. Okay, but you're making up for it. You're making up for it. You're certainly making up for it in scale here. So this came out of the show Tell Art Phone.
It did.
Which I curated.
Yes, it did.
Which you were given someone's artwork, and you made your artwork in response to them.
Yes, I did.
I gave you a drawing this big.
That's
and
right.
You made a 7-8 foot painting.
Yeah, because the drawing that you gave me by Coop looked like a Venus.
Looked like Venus.
Right. He had a drawing. It was cartoonesque, and she was sitting in this S pose like a Venus, and she was so sexy and beautiful. And that's the first thing I thought is Venus. And then remember, I had the conversation with you on the phone. I said, wow, would it be okay to turn that Venus into something that I would see as a Venus? Because there's nothing more sexy, more feminine than giving birth, right? And so I imagined who gave a lot of birth? Slaves gave a lot of birth, right? So I imagined the slave on the auction block. And then I thought of Venus on the shell. And so that's when I made the first appropriation, when I first flipped the script. And since then, I've sketched dozens and dozens of these. They take me a long time to paint. I have no assistants, so.
You have no assistants?
I have no assistants, Matt Gleason.
No assistants?
Outside of my children.
Put those kids to work! Oh, God.
They're young.
They're young. Yeah. I don't care. I used to have to go to my. Oh, never mind. Yeah. Okay. So can we see the next painting here? We've got, and this is based on Botticelli.
Yes.
And what is this, and what is it based on?
I call this Blessed Mother and the Dragon, and that is based on the Book of Revelations. I mean, to the T. So it's
the Book of Revelations.
The Book of Revelations. So if anyone asks you, did the Virgin Mother, Blessed Mother, did she scream and yell in labor pains when she was delivering the Christ child? The Book of Revelation said she did.
It does?
It does. It says she was wailing.
Wow.
It said she was wailing as the dragon was trying to steal the baby from her. And so I was actually reading the Book of Revelations as I was painting this. And this is a painting that I didn't do with any sketch. I just started all freehand with the paint and brush in my hand. And so I just painted it really quickly as I was reading the Book of Revelation. So it said the dragon had so many heads, I painted so many heads. It said it had so many horns, I painted so many horns. So many diadems, so many diadems. It said that it threw a third of the stars from his tail down to the earth. So I painted, like 21 stars, and I took 7 of them in the tail and threw them down to the earth.
Oh my God! There's like numerology and everything.
Yeah.
So
and scripture is pouring through there.
This is like a visionary painting, would you say?
Yeah, it is. And then of course she is syncretized with Oshun, because in Cuba, where I was born, the slaves had to disguise their orishas, whom they worship, behind the names of Catholic saints in order to avoid persecution. And so they found that certain orishas had similar traits to saints, Catholic saints.
Okay.
So they found that Oshun, who wears a yellow dress in Yoruba folklore, was very similar to the Virgin Mary. But she liked things like peacocks, so you can see the peacock. She liked the number 5, so you see, 5.
Outside, I mean, you have such a deep spirituality, and yet, in the art world, everybody's so obsessed with like formalism.
Yes.
Who are do you have influences in
the art
art
world?
lineage?
Yeah.
I see you quoting classical paintings, or but are there painterly influences?
I have mentors, and one of my greatest mentors is a neighbor of mine, Dr. Samela Lewis. And she is a painter. She was born in 1923.
Oh boy.
And she inspires me because she's a consummate painter like me. She's constantly painting. She has a love affair with the materials as I do. I just have an absolute, like a visceral attraction to the materials, to the oil paint, to the brushes. And she does too. And
wow.
And she often, she has children, and she incorporates her children in her artwork as well. But it would be Dr. Samela Lewis.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And then, let's see. Okay. This is not a painting. What is this?
It's a photograph. It's a photograph. I do some photography, and it's a photograph from a work that I called Ain't Funny. And it's an installation that has photography, it has sculpture, it has videography, and it's inspired by Frantz Fanon, the philosopher, the Martinican philosopher. Frantz Fanon has a wonderful book called Black Skin, White Masks, wherein he talks about the subconscious association of blackness with wrongness. So I made this work around the same time when many young black men were being killed, and the subject matter is my son, my eldest son, who at the time was 16. So this is some of the imagery where he is struggling with the stereotypes of being a young black attractive, strong male. He's also highly intelligent. He goes to Johns Hopkins. So in the video, in the sculpture, in the photography, you see him struggling with those stereotypes of black maleness and with the whiteness. And what does it feel like to try to put on this white mask when you're not? And what does it feel like to hide behind the masks of racism? And
did you feel a need to like not paint this? Is it why were you?
Yeah, because
was it more
my son,
photography was more
because
immediate?
my son, it was, you know, when Trayvon Martin was killed, my husband and I, having 5 boys, we were panicked about the hood, and constantly when our children were going out, we were concerned about their image, you know, as young black men, even though they were young, you know, adolescents and pre-adolescents, and so we were constantly concerned about their image. Don't wear your hood. And so I started to look at my son, who's now, you know, he's burgeoning into a man with these great big muscles, and about the suffering that I have in worrying about him, and the suffering that all mothers have with their black children being in public. And it's not just black mothers, because I have a lot of white female friends who also have black children, whether through birth or through adoption. And this piece also deals with that. It actually uses as a trope the concern that a mother has for her black child in the public as, you know, the vehicle through which this is talked about.
Is it talked about enough? I mean, do we need to talk about it more? I mean, is it a private conversation? Is it a public conversation?
I think it's a public conversation. I do. You know, I think it is.
I mean, America's like this ongoing experiment, you know, and we're kind of like, it's like the experiment just seems to be bubbling over at times, you know?
Yeah, but I wish, you know, people like you play a really important role in stopping racism, because you are a white male, and you, by your example of, you don't look at the color line, man. I mean, you're constantly, you just look at the work when it comes to art, and you are embracing, you're embracing of artists from all different ethnic and
This is not the Kiss Up to Matt show.
No, I'm not trying to kiss up. No, but I'm saying that as a white, because you brought it up. As a white male, you have a role.
You honor me. Thank you.
No, because you play an important role.
I just try to be a good guy.
No, for real, because if more white people would speak out like you against racism, then it would influence other white people to do the same.
I speak out against ignorance, and racism is a byproduct of ignorance. I think that's inevitable. So let's see the next thing. What else you've been up to here? Is there more? Are there more?
Yeah.
There is. Okay. Oh, right. Oh, I know that guy. So Stephen Brooks.
Yeah, that's a performance piece. It's called Dawning and Dismissal of the Conqueror's Coiffure.
Wow.
So that I actually did in my 2014 MFA solo thesis show at Otis. We did this at the Vision Theater in Leimert Park. And that is also highly codified with Afro-Cuban religious iconography. So I have 3 hair salons that alter as, 3 hair salons that also work as altars, as
a hair salon and an altar.
An altar at the same time.
Combined at the same time.
So they each venerate a certain Orisha.
No, they venerate. Okay, you had the saint.
Yes.
And they made that the Orisha. And now you got the hair salon,
right.
And a performance.
And so what happens is, while Ave Maria, which is a classical European song, is playing, we have had our hair straightened, and so we invite the audience to come up and comb our straightened hair. And as Ave Maria dissipates, then the Afro-Cuban live drummers and dancers come, drown out Ave Maria, and then we do this ritualistic soaking of the heat-straightened hair into water, because all it takes is a little water to make
it water and
back
right back. Yeah, okay.
And then we all emerge with this natural afro.
Okay.
And there are posters that I make. I don't know if you have the posters, but I made those. You see those little oil. Yeah. Can you show the posters that I made?
I don't know if they're in there or not,
yeah,
man. I don't know. We pulled some photos.
But that also is inspired by Frantz Fanon's.
So you're doing a performance thing, but you consider yourself primarily a painter, correct?
Yeah, that's what I do the most of. I paint. I do installation, photography, performance, sculpture, but if you ask me what I do the most, it's definitely painting.
You ego-identify as a painter?
As painter, yeah.
Okay, so you are an artist, of course, but you ego-identify as a painter.
Absolutely, and that's one thing I can't live without is painting.
Great.
I can't live without painting.
Well, it's been wonderful having you on the show.
Thank you, Matt
Thank
Gleason.
you so much for being here. I'm one of your biggest fans.
Oh, thank you. I'm one of your fans, too.
Sorry about those kids bugging you all the time, but, you know.
All right.
So, but we have to see your sketch. So what do we have here? This from the Sketcher's seat from Eliza is Lily Bernard.
Thank you, Eliza.
Thank you very much.
Eliza.
Great drawing.
Thank you, Matt.
And then we'll all go out to dinner afterwards.
All right,
But
thank you.
You're not invited, Internet.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Not invited, Internet. Okay, so wow, that was fun. Did you have fun drawing Lily?
Yeah.
Could you have like if she's on here for 2 hours, would it have been? I mean, did you get it all?
I feel like it'd be fun to draw her like all day, I think.
It would be fun to draw her all day. Well, if your painting career is a little bumpy, Lily, maybe you have a future as a model, at least for Eliza. Our next guest here on Modern Art Blitz needs no introduction, and yet my job is to introduce him. He's a legend, a street art pioneer, a fine art purveyor, and an all-around kind of cranky, nice guy. Ladies and gentlemen, Robbie Conal. Somewhere out there. Robbie? Hey! How you doing, man?
All right, man.
Welcome to the show.
I just want to say racism is bad. White male. Racism is bad.
Get it out of the way first.
Yeah.